Here are my choices for the 10 worst Marianne books in the Babysitter's Club series. In my original reviews for these books, I gave all of them a score that's 3 out of 10 or lower. Number 10, Marianne and the Mystery at the Zoo. This is a terrible mystery which wastes too much time on irrelevant scenes. Like Marianne tries to use sign language on gorillas, and Marilyn Arnold is built up as a major suspect only to never appear again. Total waste of time. I think it's dumb that the master key for all the animal cages is identical to the cheap plastic zoo keys. Anyone with a zoo key can open an animal cage. It's such a major, obvious security risk, I can't believe it. The culprit is an idiot. His alibi is that he was feeding animals at 2 o'clock, but the animal feeding is at 1 o'clock. That's public information listed on all the zoo maps and the signs. Our culprit is a zookeeper. He should know this information. He's caught red-handed trying to steal gorillas in full view of a large crowd. And he doesn't realize the gorillas are people in gorilla suits. He's so dumb. He would have been caught and arrested even if the babysitters had done nothing to stop him. Number 9, Marianne versus Logan. Marianne and her boyfriend have a fake breakup storyline, which I did not like. They quickly get back together, so it's not a real story, it's just a marketing gimmick to sell more books. Just like the Stacy quits the Babysitter's Club storyline. The breakup is not realistic, it is forced. Both Marianne and Logan act like totally different people, because if they acted like their normal selves, they wouldn't break up. And the story needs them to break up so they can sell more books. In Logan's case, he becomes aggressive. He's angry and confused that Marianne can't go on dates because she's babysitting. He interrupts her babysitting jobs like a jerk. This is a dumb story, because Logan is in the Babysitter's Club. It makes no sense that he doesn't know how babysitting works. In Marianne's case, she becomes petty and insulting. She gets mad at Logan because he can't read her mind and do what she wants. Like he asks her out to the movies, but he suggested the wrong movie, so she insists on canceling their plans. The same thing happens when he orders her the wrong food, or when he tries to surprise her with nice things. Logan and Marianne are both so bad in this book, it's almost a relief when they break up. Number 8, The Fire at Marianne's House. This is the last book of the Babysitter's Club series, and it is a terrible note to go out on. It starts off with 3 chapters of boring recap, followed by 2 chapters of nothing, before the story actually gets started. Whenever you can skip the first 50 pages of a book, it's generally a sign that it is a bad Babysitter's Club book. Marianne's house burns down in the middle of the night. Everything she owned is lost forever, and her dad thinks the family should move out of the state. This was an emotional and dramatic storyline with no ending. The book suddenly stops before any decisions are made. It's a big letdown, especially since they had plenty of chapters about nothing, which could have been removed and replaced with an actual ending. Another reason to dislike this book is that it only focuses on 3 of the club members, meaning most of the characters are ignored in the series finale. I didn't like all the joke chapters, which are presumably meant to ease the tension, but they come across as out of place. When Marianne's life has been destroyed, I don't want to hear jokes about Jackie Radowski's clumsiness. Number 7, Marianne and the Great Romance. This is another book where you can kind of skip the first 50 pages and miss nothing. I know a lot of people really like this book. I thought it was terrible. Just like the Wedding Super Special, the author clearly has no interest in marriage or romance because they skip over pretty much everything of interest. I was expecting this book to have lots of trips to the mall to try on fancy dresses and eat a bunch of cake and buy presents and all of the stuff Christie did for the wedding in book 6. Because that was a good wedding book. But nope, not this one. We only get half a chapter of wedding prep. What do we get instead? 4 chapters of recap and 6 chapters of babysitting. So the vast majority of the romantic wedding book has nothing to do with romance or weddings. The book barely cares about the parents. They're little more than an excuse for Dawn and Marianne to play dress up and get excited over how they're sisters now. Also, it seems untrue to Marianne's character that she doesn't think about her dead mother when her dad gets remarried. She and her dad could have had a long emotional conversation about that. Yeah, that's why book number 6 was good. The wedding book had a strong emotional core. There is no emotional core to this wedding book. Number 6, Marianne plus Too Many Babies. This was a weird book. The school forces all the students to pretend they're married with kids. I don't know why the school is forcing romance drama on its students like this. It seems to be a theme that I dislike the Marianne books with forced romance drama. The couples are given eggs, and it is weird how all the characters are 100% committed to the idea that the eggs are babies. Like, Christy neglects her babysitting clients because she's too busy talking about the egg's social life. Marianne also neglects her clients because she doesn't want to leave the egg alone. It's an egg! It's not alive! But that doesn't stop Logan and Marianne from having fights over the egg. She cries because she doesn't spend enough time with the egg. Other kids in the class have breakdowns. Did I suddenly travel to Bizarro World, where this is considered normal behavior? It's not that bad of a book, but I couldn't get past the weird premise of everybody ruining their own lives because they're too busy playing pretend egg babies. Number 5, Marianne to the Rescue. This book is super boring. It's mostly safety lectures. The babysitters take a first aid class, and we get to hear what the teacher says, word for word. The babysitting jobs are full of safety lectures, and there's even a safety fair. Don't get me wrong, safety is important, but multiple lectures on safety does not make for an interesting story. There is no story. Nothing happens besides the characters listening to lectures. Oh yeah, and there's a scene where Marianne gets to save a kid's life and she feels self-confident because she totally forgot she already did that in book 4 of the series. In a weird subplot, Logan's being sent to boarding school. He's afraid to talk to his parents about it, and Marianne spends the whole book getting mad at Logan for being too shy. Again, did I suddenly travel to Bizarro World, where Logan is the shy one and Marianne is the one who likes telling people what to do? Because that is the story. It has the characters backwards. Number 4, Marianne in the Middle. This is another Bizarro World story, where Marianne is best friends with Mallory and Jesse. They call her all the time and hang out at her house. Since when? Marianne barely talks to them outside of club meetings. There's no reason for Marianne to be the narrator of the book. She has no connection to the story. It would be like Marianne narrating one of Christie's baseball books. It doesn't work. Mallory is going to move away. Jesse's angry, and she starts being as mean as possible to Mallory. I didn't know Jesse could be that mean. Their fight is so mean-spirited, it ruins the book for me. Every time Marianne forces the friends to talk to each other, it backfires. The fight just escalates. This happens a few times, until Mallory and Jesse suddenly become friends again, because it's the end of the book, and there needs to be a happy ending. Number 3, Marianne and the Silent Witness. This is another bad mystery. A teenage culprit is vandalizing houses. The babysitters focus all their attention on little boys and an elderly man. Even though they're not teenagers, they can't be the teenage culprit. Let's just waste time on obviously fake suspects. The teenage culprit is being paid to commit crimes, but I guess the author forgot about that because the ending says he's being blackmailed into committing crimes. The culprit seems to be the evil Mr. Fowler who wants to build an office park. A fair amount of the book is spent on his real estate development plans. It's quite boring. Fowler gives himself away for no reason at all when he doesn't remember his hometown. This leads the babysitters to discover he's got a secret twin brother. The brother's the culprit. He's destroying houses because he wants to save the local park. This culprit plan makes no sense, by the way. I will encourage people to stay in their houses by destroying their houses. Mr. Fowler is also revealed as a culprit when he leaves incriminating blueprints in a public park. That's a dumb move on his part, and I'm sorry, I thought this entire mystery was dumb. At least there's a scene where Marianne does a series of funny accents. That was interesting. Number 2, Marianne in Camp BSC. This book is so bad, I kind of blocked it from my memory. The story is that the girls are babysitting a large group of kids, which is one of the most overused stories in the entire series. Most of the camp is Karen being a brat and causing problems. Marianne's dad leaves on a business trip. She cries a lot because she misses him, and she gets mad at Sharon and Dawn. This story almost worked. Initially, she's mad at them for being messy and leaving her to do all the chores. That was good. But the story turns into Marianne getting mad because they're not paying enough attention to her. They invite her to do fun things with them, like watch movies. She refuses and then gets mad at them for excluding her. It's just like the breakup book, where she gets mad at Logan for doing exactly what she told him to do. Marianne, you can't have your cake and eat it too. In the subplot, a 4-year-old girl is having problems being away from her mother. She screams and cries the whole time. I think it's understandable when a 4-year-old acts this way, but not when 13-year-old Marianne has even bigger temper tantrums and constant pity parties for herself because she's got problems of her own making. Number 1, Maid Marianne. You've probably figured out by now that I dislike books which are untrue to the established characters and their personalities. This seems to be a problem for Marianne. It's like the authors don't know how to write a book about a shy girl, so they change her personality to suit the story. That's partially the case in this book. The premise is that Marianne is a selfish person who needs to learn to do nice things for other people. Really? Are we talking about the same Marianne? She's never mean to anyone. Marianne gets sewing lessons from an older woman named Mrs. Town. Mrs. Town breaks her ankle, and she forces Marianne to do all her chores. This goes on for a long time. Mrs. Town constantly interrupts Marianne's life. Marianne is forced to drop everything and rush to the old woman's house in order to do pointless, unnecessary chores. The moral of the story is that it's wrong to be nice and help other people. I'm not joking. The moral should be, don't let other people take advantage of you, but no, the book says being nice is wrong. It's better if you're mean to old women. What a terrible moral. Marianne confronts Mrs. Town, and I'm pretty sure Mrs. Town never appears again in the series. The book also suffers from awkwardly constructed sentences, overly long paragraphs, and a lot of sewing terminology, like the basting stitch or the French knot. The book assumes you already know what those are. I was confused the whole time, but people who know sewing were okay with it. The only part of the book I'd recommend is when a bully harasses 2 boys for taking a sewing class. The boys are worried at first until they learn it's okay to do things you enjoy instead of following strict gender stereotypes. That was a good story. Too bad it wasn't the main story. It would be interesting to have a book where Marianne surprises everyone by learning to do something that's considered quite masculine. Those are my choices for the 10 worst Marianne books of the series. I also did a list of the 9 best Marianne books. If you haven't checked that out, you might want to. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to my channel.